So, colleagues, we are talking about global sales today. In order to enhance our scales, I suggest every key speaker would try maximum quickly describe the markets that you're working at or you're responsible, so we would understand the scale. Eastern Europe, States, Central Asia. Yeah, I would like to say that Globe operates at 15 markets: Ukraine, Poland, Kazakhstan. I'm not going to name everyone, but Globo partially is available worldwide, so we are quite international, Valentine. It's easier to say where we're not working. China, some other Eastern nations, so Iran. Serhii, I stuck on the previous question. I was thinking where a nation that been named sits. Central, Eastern Europe, Asia, that's the markets that I'm leading up, an experience that covers today more than 50 markets worldwide, including Canada and Latin America. So then the very quick and common question for everyone: what was the most difficult region? Not getting into details, seems that mic has been lost from time to time. So, Sergey, will you start? You see, obviously, I would immediately tend to say Asia. Asia is very interesting, and I can talk for ages. That's a unique new world, but my biggest challenge, that's the Central Europe. That might be a surprising. We are very alike, but not in the way we are not that alike as someone may think. Yeah, I was going to say that Ukraine is Europe. Well, Ukraine is Europe, but Central Europe, whether it is Europe, that's the question. Well, Valentin, I would say we can take 10 years of our expansion. That's UK, first of all. That's the market where we still feel that internal struggle. And since recently, that's the United States. We started our active development. Too many challenges, too many things to be done in new ways. Yeah, I agree that European market, we consider different options with American market. We have few projects, but we already know that it's going to be challenging. However, European market has a very powerful global stakeholders, and our model has to be changed and operate in a very niche formats, which we're not used to. There were no easy markets, but probably the most difficult one, the United Kingdom, very highly regulated market, high competitiveness, and they prefer stability, lasting for centuries, and that's not an easy for us. Is it about loon or bird? Verb through B. And how things are there? Well, people are paying with expensive pounds, so more or less fine. Not that we dislike it. So, whether there were many companies who went to Europe thinking that they were expected there, but I would like to start with Asia. Sergey, you mentioned that, and maybe expand a bit, because it seems that every Ukrainian company expansion comes from Baltic states first, and then UK, and Asia is been seen less. So can you highlight any peculiarities of this market, maybe not the entire region, but some specifics? Well, to start with, why we entered Asia, looking at the perspective of 12 years, what Bolt was doing, the milking cow that was Africa, that sort of led the rest of the world. COVID happened, investment climate became very difficult worldwide, but our business model was built in such a way that we were able to reinvest our incomes. And when we made our analysis, Asia became the most attractive in terms of the investment return. And that then happened. We launched Thailand, and then challenging but successful Malaysia. Why these markets are interesting? Because there's such stereotype that this is something sort of a madhouse, but this is not in the way. It's very structural, it's very modern, starting with hierarchy, pillar, command and control, management, talking to government, and so on and so forth. This is very similar to Europe. Speaking about creativity, it's also European to an extent, but with some local features. There is no craziness. It's absolutely calm. With that, many markets at the first instance looks like poor, but this is not the case. It's a very huge dual and mentality demonstrating that you may have a single quarter where people just drink water from the pond. On next quarter will book Bolt Lux. The interesting thing in Asia, markets are similar and very different. We launched Vietnam, Taiwan, very different regulation. If you purchase license but you are not been launched, your license been cancelled, you'll be penalized and you will be prevented from reapplying. There is nothing like that in some other markets. Another thing, it's easy to enter these markets because of the scooters, motorbikes, number one, and tuk-tuks. And that's an easier model when we speak about partners, carpools, luxury vehicles, hundreds. So if you're in Sri Lanka, are you going to utilize elephants? Well, I've got that question before. That's the wrong answer, that this question already been asked. I'm not going to ask any more questions for you if you are going to talk like that. Joking. Let us launch something similar in Kiev, test, because Ukraine is the lead nation of new projects that we launch elsewhere. I don't want to launch elephants at Sri Lanka. What if we will fail? But everything is possible. That's I can say. The only thing it has to support the business model and satisfy the needs of the clients. So summarizing briefly, Asia is the future that we have to consider, but not only looking westward. Well, there are many local players. Grab was in some regions. How difficult to compete when you operate from Europe? Well, that's an interesting battle, because to an extent in Europe we counter or compete with Uber, in Eastern Europe Yandex, unfortunately, and we don't really know what to do. And we bet that Grab has the same model as Uber, but in fact, it has something similar between us and Uber. But the biggest downside of Grab in this part of the world, that's Malaysian company. Obviously, it's been favored and people take that. And there are too many local insights, local peculiarities. What were the things caused the decision made? Because you are going to be compared not only with other stakeholders, but a favorite national stakeholder. Today we had a meeting, the challenge number one, recognition. They're all green. There are three players and they're all green with white letters. And how you would differentiate yourself from others, that's the problem. Interesting. Valentin, you also operated that market, and your challenge, I guess, that China is next to that market, overwhelming with some cheap products. How do you compete? What do you do? Well, first of all, we speak about consumers' habits, because Asia market, from the classical alarm standpoint, that product never been widespread there. Let's say internet came to Africa as a mobile one at start, so security in Asia appeared at the CCTV systems, for instance, which were actively developed because of investments of Chinese government. That's one case. So security mainly being covered by the city, by the town. People care less about their private security, but the city or the town, a local council, offer you some solutions on smart city-based things. Speaking of, we're now entering the CCTV market and fire alarm systems. This region becomes more interesting to us. And honestly, there are many nuances, but as of now, we are doing some really initial first steps. India, in turn, for instance, I do remember when we came to an exhibition back in 2019, and we were talking to the biggest local manufacturer, and they were selling in India more than we were selling worldwide, and we were talking to him, and they were considering to utilize our products as their channel for trading. And when we were discussing prices, he looked and said, well, that's the prices to a final client. No, that's your procurement prices. And said, oh, well, I want to have that as the end client. So from the standpoint of pricing and costs, that's a very severe competition. So the product there is a bit of premium type than in comparison to an average European state. Do you interact with this Indian partner? No. So you're on your own. Yes, we are. So let's get to Europe, Valeriia. You mentioned that you have to compete with the big global players on the European market. And what do you struggle with? Is it brand, performance, actions? How do you present your case, local clients, that you are here? Well, thank you. That's a beautiful question, because Ilya is the best moderator of all the discussions. Well, in fact, the approach to marketing has been changed. I do see the youngsters here. I have to remind that earlier that was classical vision at brand companies and performance companies. The brand companies, they're a large-scale project with TV budgets, and before the brand company will make the case, the performance companies would not be started. Now, each communication channel, your staff member, by the way, pay attention to the DSCT United team. They all dressed in corporate brand. I also dressed in the corporate colors, Megago, and we can deal all the types of the green. So it's all about brand. So when we consider performance companies, every company should have a brand. But what is critical operating at European markets, that's what Denise said, it's critical to build confidence and trust, because they do have their habits set. And even providing product for free, they're not going to taste that and sample that, because that is something to install, and that is a stress for them, maybe dangerous for them. I think we should build relations with top vendor. All vendors should have our application pre-installed, and you purchase in your little shop Samsung TV, and Megago application is there, it's in the launcher. And when we do a launch company, there are some promo vendors, and they say, oh, that's the great product, you can follow TV channels and all of the products that are available in the market. That's first that we do. So our application installed on all types of the devices, and with all the vendors, we run the companies of that site. And then performance companies, because these are the most efficient, especially speaking about the European markets. The classical brand companies, they are super ineffective, super costly. TV is very expensive, external presentation difficult. So we deal with partners. In the performance companies, we stick to brand, value, message, and partner prices. So speaking about Poland, we were launching project with the big trade networks like HM, Samsung, in cooperation promo with LG, and that's the brand that people can trust to. And the other interesting thing, in 1 zloty, Prime, we were not doing because people are saying, oh, that's dangerous, that's a trick in here. So there should be some reasonable price, and then the confidence is growing. So you have to calculate how much may it cost to develop that confidence, but the most budgets are costed by performance companies. So the performances just follow Superman at Megago, or just Megago is the best place. Well, some 800 performance companies at different types of audience. Someone will say, have a look at Superman. Again, a Polish market, a great case. All brands are there, even Disney Plus. We don't have it, they have it. And I'm not going to say, but we had several premieres here earlier at our platform before that and Disney Plus. We were aware that we will do it earlier, and we launched the company that we will have that contact. That's the price. Please check right after the cinemas. It's super beneficial. Speaking about the Polish market, they do calculate money and say, oh, we can see the film that is still in the cinema, single ticket for the entire family, no need to buy popcorn because we can do it in a microwave. Super valuable. The other company would be directed at TV broadcasting. So 11 sport channel, we are going to have a broadcast, whether it's a Polish team or some Polish player in a European club, and that's super attractive to them because you can have some promos for some testing at a reasonable price or some promo. So we collect that audience, but not in a way that we cannot do an advertising company, everything for everyone. We should look for niches, space safe for kids. Don't let them see things in internet because we have parental control. You can introduce different safe things so they can be safe. Denis was pulling the hair. Let's do the partnership in Poland. So they would order popcorn through Glovo. You know, we offered you a partnership. Come to me. Come to me. There is nothing to respond. There is a Polish team from locals, and they talked to yours, to Rob. Just a second, I have a mini question to Valeriia. How not to be afraid of entering the market where Amazon, Video Prime, Netflix, Disney Plus, and you understand that you have to be among those with your subscription. How can you compete for a number of clients? You see, I've made a compliment. It's easy. We have products that neither Netflix, no one else have. We have a mega pack in Ukraine. We have Netflix, Megago is at Tanta, a super price. You buy 30% cheaper with us if you pay separately. We don't afraid competition. Not because we're so incredible, because we have different products. We have TV broadcasts that Polish channels don't have. We have sports that other platforms don't have. I know things. We have audio products, we have podcasts, we have audio books. And for every market, we add some peculiarity that will make us different. Obviously, there are downsides if we compare, and Ukrainians left Ukraine and they would like to have Ukrainian Megago worldwide. You can't buy it because we paid Champion League rights in Ukraine, and in France, other player purchased the right. Is National Marathon is available in Poland? Well, that's the holy thing. National Marathon should be available to people worldwide. People follow Ukrainian language, and how many Ukrainians are subscribed to Megago in Europe? Well, we have a global catalog, and Ukrainians are active users because the majority of the product is free of charge. For instance, we made the Ukrainian folk tales for kids free of charge globally, and the best actors and representatives of Ukrainian cultural space, call it elite, and we made it free of charge because we understand that people attend in British or French or German schools have no other possibility to hear home language, but maybe in the evening to follow some folk tales from the school curricular. So the entire school curriculum being revoiced and became available worldwide. So initiatives of that sort. But nevertheless, we compile the products for Poles. They're not keen to see Ukrainian products. Let's be honest. Even for Ukrainians in Poland, you can have two subscriptions, a Polish subscription and Ukrainian subscription. So people test Ukrainian subscription, but then they switch to Polish subscription because they have to be aware of Polish context, and Polish subscription is growing, Ukrainian subscription has no dynamics, and we do not really develop that product. So it's a minimum doorstep, minimum threshold. Thank you, Denise. A similar question on British market, how you coped with Burp, what you stressed at. So you were there for 2 years. So in comparison to the start, and now when you say that you've been paid with pound and enjoy luxury life, well, not that luxury, but yes, we do have payments in pounds, and in current exchange rate, it's much better than euro. But overall, so you are in London. Yes, we are. We were not trying to get to a very niche top markets, but this is one of the top 3 R&B markets worldwide, and we entered there and no one expected us, and there are not that many Ukrainians who would be looking for us. And yes, we would like to be brand, but what are we going to brand? And we have to generate a unique user's experience so people would be talking to. So the challenge for the team at the new market to make sure that 1,000 people would be mad of you, not in love, not fan, but, you know, would like to get kids from you. Then we can speak about performance companies. Why performance, not brand? Because half time of existence of the project, we do the planning. So you enter a market, that's 0 days. You plan nothing. Then half a year past, you can plan 3 months. Then in a year, you can plan for 6 months. But in the initial stages, you can't do anything. You adopt your products. You play with the big competitors who either will eat you or sue you and then eat, because they are so big. So it's easier just to buy little startups like Google, buy and bury somewhere under the carpet. So the focus number 1, a unique user's experience. So we will say, okay, fine, we have something to offer, then we increase the base, and then when we've been running to an extent, we can start pushing the brand. And we push the brand on ambassadors, local fans of us. So word of mouth, from face to face, from person to person. That's our product, our case. And then hands are meeting each other. If you would like to end up in the V, that would be great, very short. Pew, and you're out of annual budget. Is your economy matching your ends in Burp? Let me so. We are not driving these cool vehicles, but we are already looking at those. If you would get £1 million, only £1 million. Well, in London, £1 million, that's nothing. You won't get even a share of voice. Valentina, how about... Let me ask a question. What is a brand ambassador or applications? We use that channel, and annually we have some 40 devices produced. There are people who are ambassadors for us, use that, write about these devices. We send them new models and they share experience. From your standpoint, you picked an apartment once, you moved in it, and then the next need may emerge in several years. Enormous pain of looking for housing in London This process may take years. Yeah, in real life, for years, you can look for a housing, you can stay in some bad place, and you can't, even if you have money. It's a peculiarity of the local market. You have to pass interview, you have to demonstrate your bank statement, you have to present the letter of recommendation from the previous landowners, and you have to do it in time, so at least to be in a top 10 shortlisted, otherwise nothing is going to happen. And in the market of that sort, when you can provide that unique experience, oh, I've managed to find an apartment. In our case, apartment found you because we have a respective engine. So apartment has been selected for you, been triggered, and then you action. So the system provokes you to share in your environment, in your zone, with experience, and we just have to fill this experience with things. How do we do that? The word R&B. Oh, by the way, people, can you believe that 2 years after I finally got? And the question would be, how come? Well, that's the way. Great. Let's proceed. And like something like that. How about your experience in UK and how long your £1 million lasted? Well, not to me. I will get even more difficult question for you. In our case, million, or from B2B marketing case, that's a normal budget. Just purely for some flying events, shows, exhibitions, and so forth. Our experience, we were reshaping the local team for the 3rd time, and now we are on the 4th go now. And in fact, you always think to yourself that probably on the West, because the markets are very competitive and serious brands are there, and UK market in particular, among Europeans, that's the most sort of safe and secure. And we had expectations that we will see people in that industry of sort of a rocket space equivalent. But the case is that probably the most skilled UK people being taken away by fintech. So if you're young, if you're talented, if you're in a university, and if you dream about a cool career, you will go to banking or fintech or whatever representations of Google, Facebook are available. If you're in Germany, we were collecting a German team for a long time. If you work in Germany, you will go to automotive or some SAP, but you would not go to a security sphere. So Ukraine has a possibility to hire rocket space engineers, to develop technologies, systems. Our competitors in other nations do not have that possibility because their talents are deployed in different areas. So our experience with the UK market, everything goes very slowly, and very slowly because that is a very conservative market, overregulated, and that logic time is unclear. Because European Union is quite simple. Let's say our Ukrainian standards, requirements, they are already harmonized with European ones. So as soon as you produced your product, you go to the lab, it's been tested, and you understand what are the principles against which your product is being tested. It's a list of tests. You can come, you can have a look how the tests are taking place, and you will get the script. And as soon as you got your certificate, no more questions to you. Your path is unlocked, and you can start selling your things. We got cases in UK when they have their own standards, but these standards are not being certified. So there is no lab available saying this product meets something. They have so-called council of superiors who just sit in a little village and say, we subjectively assess your product, and besides, they assess that from some mid-90s standpoints when these requirements were developed, having no mobile phone available, and sometimes we had even clinches with them because there was information presented that they were coming to the objects like auditors to see the equipment and say, well, this equipment does not meet our standards. We say, how come? How that is possible? These are the standards. And we present the certificates that, no, we have something own, internal. Can you show? Well, you know, that's the matter of sort of tradition. So it's all very difficult and long time consuming. So when we were sort of ended up in some clinches and saying, how about we apply the court, still it was clear that it is easier to do the way they would like it happen. Now in our application, we have a special UK mode. When you activate a mode and you have the whole list of other sub-lists, and that's to meet their requests that was collected.
But altogether, well, it is very slow. And it never happens that the people who are interested in something new, for instance, if you take Northern Europe, they say that any technology which emerging first is working in Sweden and in 3 years in France, because the French are even slower. And in fact, it is working like here, like that in here. Northern Europe was one of the first markets of ours where we really felt some development. Serhii, I promised that you'll have a very hard question, but you remembered that on your own. I'm interested how you are fighting against, well, I cannot say this word, Yandex, because what I know, they are coming and they are burning everything, extinguishing everything with their own money. This is the trick of Russia. When Osmanov is coming to some market, he pays 300 million and creates fintech #1. He comes to Kazakhstan, 1 billion, and they construct. They can spend so much money, I never knew they could exist. And I do remember how they came to Kyiv with Yandex. They took the most expensive vehicles, branded with Yandex, and per diem, day by day. I'm just interesting, how can you fight against such a player at the long run? Because in Kazakhstan, they are both players #1 and #2. They invented the second brand. So how do you fight against this pile of money? Look, it is true. I say those are oil money. When it occurs to you, you just open this tub of oil and they pour the budget. This is how they win. No, but in fact, it's not like this. There are two cases. First, Azerbaijan and, for instance, Kazakhstan. We are successful in Azerbaijan. We are the market leaders, because though they have Yandex, and as you said properly, they did it really cool. Unfortunately, they did it. It is true. They made the alternative for themselves. There is Yandex and Yango. The trick is that you have one app for the drivers, so the supply always is there, and two alternative apps for the passengers. The ones who just want to use the classical service and the ones who would like cheaper or some other different models in different geographies. So what's the difference between the success of Azerbaijan and not success in Kazakhstan? In 2019, I joined the company of Bolt, and it was launched in Kazakhstan. It was a super successful launch because we used to think that it will work as it used to work in Azerbaijan. But there was a moment we in Azerbaijan at the very beginning started together in the similar way. We did not have a very specific player, but in Kazakhstan they used to be there for a long time already, and it was very hard to keep this leadership position. Coming in and having discounts, simplifying, it was easy. But then when you're opening this tab of oil money, your eyes either going back, or you are left there on the minimal level, or you are leaving. So we took a painful decision then that we will not play with these budgets, because it used to be totally not reasonable. But Azerbaijan, as we were having parity and simultaneous work, we managed to win there. There is no secret in that. It is a very weightful strategy, well-weighted strategy of the money spending. Let me appeal to the London's expenses. Why London is so expensive? It is expensive because they can quickly teach. I'm not dealing with London, but it's the case which everybody knows in the company, because it changed a lot. We never invested at the new markets or smaller markets for the external ads. And in London, suddenly we decided, let us brand the underground station. It cost not £1 million, but €1 million. For Balt company, it's 120 times more than we would usually spend. But still it became a beginning of the global, one of the 5 OKRs, when we are now investing in the venues. You know, the railway station in Kyiv, and not only in Kyiv. This is the same story when we brand with the external tools, because we can see how we move from the competitives or from other types of vehicles, but mostly from the competitors, to go with us. And it's not about the amount of money, it's about the amount how much we can incrementally earn. And London is the example which showed that this is where we should look at. And these things are working in the strategy of Bolt in Azerbaijan. When Yandex came with their story, we will solve everything for ourselves, because Eastern Europe, we did not discuss that today, but it's interesting, they have a very important cultural code and connections. When the president's family owns the majority of important businesses, you cannot just not be involved in this crowd. So Yandex put stake on that. Once they won, but we, cold-blooded way, were waiting and got our share, which we are retaining successfully. And at many markets with Yandex, we had the same thing. They came with crazy investments, but it's not the reason for success. If you don't have the leadership positions instantly, like Yandex in Kazakhstan had, it's just a temporary solution. Thank you, Denise. You wanted to add anything? Yes, I wanted to add. Not many people remember, but there used to be Yandex real estate in Ukraine, from Yandex as well. And the same story. They brought cash to Ukraine and they bought ads as much as possible. And Yandex used to be popular as a search engine. So the same one bought traffic from other team. And in their strategy it was written to have position number 1 till deadline. They never achieved it, so they left the market. Number 1 in real estate used to be us, Lun. And there is the reason why they failed. The regional peculiarities are incredibly important. They're so important that even cities are different in Ukraine in how people are selecting real estate and accommodation. And no one of the strangers can create this service story. No one of the strangers can understand why it is done like this. And we're using that at the international markets. That is why our marketing is here, but it is based upon the experts from there, like sales are from their sales managers. I'm not speaking about Asia. Even in Eastern Europe, even in Georgia, which seems to be very close, maybe they are similar to us, right? The same types of apartments and houses, right? No. Without the understanding of the local cultural code, it will never work. Nothing will work. There are so many people who would like to add. 30 seconds, please. Yes, I would like to add about the importance of the cultural code. Many people forgot that Russians, online cinemas and streamings went to the Ukrainian market, and it of course bothered us, interfered, but then Megogo stayed the market leader. And when the full-scale invasion started, their positions, as they couldn't take any information field really helped us a lot. We used to be leaders and we were instantly involved into this information fight. What's important that at all of the key markets we have local marketing teams, communication and SMM teams, and rather frequently all of the events are given through different contexts. For instance, The Last of Us of HBO. The first night was not done in Kazakhstan because our PR and marketing said that it is totally impossible because there is a kiss of two girls there. And in Kazakhstan, if the journalists see that, we would have the reputational crisis at the first night. So we decided to change the context. It would never occur to us because it was the most expected first night. So with The Last of Us, it was the most important for Ukraine. The same was about Poland. And our enemies, they did not only take into account this context, so while we're losing, we don't need those positions. So we were moving to what was important with such an important approach, dotty one. That's how we kept it. Serhii, I can instantly tell that the first night of Last of Us was really cool. We really achieved it. You could use Bolt and also taste Bolt food catering, but I'd like to add a bit of bad thing about Yandex and Ukraine, because in fact, if we look subjectively at this issue, according to my own experience, I think that they would succeed to retain this market. I will explain why. The majority of the markets in the world, in Europe and Eastern Europe, are very multinational drivers who are coming to work. And in Ukraine, in spite of such cases existing, it's a very low percentage as of today. And when we are talking about a Ukrainian driver, he is rather pestered. He would like to earn more. And the majority of the drivers, for whom it's the main way of earning, they even have the models how to work. Whatever it may seem funny, but still. According to the average indicators, the average income of the driver can be 800 euro, an average one. Not working a lot, we can compare it with any other profession. So, if someone put too much money into the market, it would work. And today we are competing at the market in the values, in the senses, the quality, and so on and so forth. I'm really proud that we're working in such a market, not just measuring the budgets. But it's already the sign, the signal for all of us that it may be the problem of the future. Let's give the opportunity, the prompt for the audience. You're really different companies, and you're still cool and high scale. You have the products of the world level. So what's the most interesting market, so that if you'd like to upscale, you should look into it, according to your opinion? Not just having too many challenges, but the opposite, when you just invest and it grows, the simplest. Dennis, would you like to start? Would you tell me about that, because you are the expert in that? No, it is impossible. You cannot find such a market. Because of some reason, somehow people are already buying real estate and doing that generation after generation. So it is done well without us. We are more fighting against the customs or traditions than some competition. That's our issue. If we take the well-developed markets, it's okay there. They are okay without us. But we get used to stand in the long queues to get apartments. In Kazakhstan, they got used to buy accommodation, taking loans the next day after the wedding. That's their tradition. And it is all over the world. So our task is to disrupt this market. Our task is to redo the rules. The bigger historical players during the whole existence of the market are against that. And they have several ways of the development, either to adapt themselves and to implement innovations, or to buy and bury it, or to pretend that they don't exist, that we don't exist for them. We are using that they are not paying attention to us. That is why we are winning every year. Valeriia, a country. Don't say that it's hard everywhere. I cannot name you the country because it will be another country for each business. Let me give you a tool how we assess. What do? We have an approach, more than 10 criteria by which we assess each of the markets. For us, it's critically important to have certain criteria. I'll tell you the example and you will create your own indicators. What's important for us? Accessibility of the content which we can take at this market. If the market of Italy, a wonderful country, you'd like to work there, I'd like to have a team there, I'll go there and to conduct meetings there and so on. But in Italy, the TV market is monopolized. So if you cannot make a deal, in Ukraine we have Starlight Media, 1+1, and in fact each media group can collect certain content. If you didn't make a deal with someone, you made a deal with other ones, and you begin the work. Their market is monopolized. So you come to the monopolist, they look at you and they say, we don't want to, but let's make a deal. We have such a nice product. Yes, you have a nice product, but then they can give you any price. And if you cannot collect the content, it's about any type of content, sports rights, like the UK market. Whatever we'd like to pay, we would never buy the football, soccer rights there, because the soccer rights are sold not only for the money, but for being there, because this company is there for about 50 years there. And even lords and ladies are there in the traditions which cannot be disrupted. Even if people don't like that, they still go on with that because there are certain traditions. This is the approach. So first we're looking at the accessibility of the content and to understand what's the minimal valuable product we can collect so that this group could be loving that. So accessibility, whether you are important, it's important for you to have the qualified technological personnel. You are calculating. So where we had to collect top 10 markets which were interested in these indicators, and we processed them in the groups where everything was working. That was the market which we chose, and then we had objectives and tasks. This is how you need to work, because if we had some country of dreams where nobody would come to and everything is growing there, in a year it wouldn't exist there because everybody would go there. This blue ocean everybody is telling about is a kind of a myth, because everything is quickly developing, the processes, the speed of copying is so high. Whatever you invent will be copied in a year, will be cheaper, and so on. So we are constantly working, changing, and we shouldn't be afraid of the new. Thank you, Valentine. Out of what we see in our work, there are two cases. The first one, the market where we don't have the consumer's custom, what Denis said about, and there is the market where it exists, and when there is already said that people are trying to solve their task with some different product. When there is no market, you shouldn't go there and try to create something there. It's too expensive. Yandex maybe can afford it for itself. So that's why we are looking more into the areas where people use some different equipment, and where it's working is where they have super obsolete story and technology. When we come and disrupt it there. In fact, all of that was working except the UK. Because in the UK, sometimes you're looking at your competitors in England, and with all due respect, those are still the 90s. But still, this is the custom, the tradition. And in other countries, everything is okay and disrupts. Still, there are markets where they have super complicated competition and their own customs and traditions. For instance, the market of the North America, where in spite of any of our ideas, we can see that technologically we are already ahead of them. But from the perspective of how we cover all of the needs which are created at the market, that the system should know how to additionally give A, B, and C, some additional devices, some integrations. And such points are really numerous. then we understand that those are blockers for us. So we make a list of them, and annually we cover them gradually, and we can see that our sales are developing there. Sometimes it can be that you do not expect where it works. I mean, where the money flow goes. For instance, when it started from the domestic segment, but there are certain regions where first the commercial objects were working, street security, like in the US. During the first year, about 70 or 80% of our installations were commercial and street objects. Thank you, Serhii. Out of my geography, Czech Republic and Romania, Uzbekistan, Thailand. Why Czech Republic, not Slovakia? Because even we consider them similar. They are totally different, considering the cultural code, legal issues, bureaucracy. Czech are more loyal for the investments than Poland, because it seems for the Ukrainians that you need to go to Poland. According to my own experience, as the operational business is working, I would look more into Czech. You can grow quicker there, and the ROI is quickly there. Romania is Ukraine 20 years ago, but it is in Europe. It has huge potential. Uzbekistan, among the Middle Asia, it is the market. Well, I will not explain to you, but lately they have lots of discoveries and permits to do something. So it will be the most loyal idea. And Thailand is the easiest from the perspective of the legal restrictions in Asia. Among Malaysia, Vietnam, Philippines, all of those islands. Thailand is easy about that. Thank you. We'll now have the Q&A session. But before we move to it, we are in Genesis. We thank you, Genesis, that you host us, so we can play this game. I have tarot cards here. So each of you can name a country, and I will tell you whether it will be successful for you or not. Let us try it. I will a very high-quality tarologist. If it does not work, I will give it again. So, Dennis, Canada. Okay, Canada. Let me take a card. Okay, this is the King of Swords. Let us imagine that Canada is to the left. You will, the lion, you will definitely tame it. You will be the king in Canada. Valeriia. Mexico. Mexico, okay. Again, the king. You will tame Mexico as well. You will be the queen, obviously. Not only kings. You will go there and you will not deal with marketing. You will go there, tour, and drink tequila, not the fuss which we have. Brazil, Valentine. Okay. Wow, look. It's nothing. There is nothing written here. It's a heart with 3 swords. There are other cards there. It's important that it can be fighting. You will go there and everything will be working there. You will succeed. I think that the 3 swords mean that you will have 3x plus to the planned revenue, and then you will just have all those 3 swords and tell everyone how to market. So before you take the card, let me tell, you are a really cool host. You have a cool taste for things, cars, and tarot cards. So Philippines. Okay, Philippines. Again, the heart, you see, and again. Well, the heart is love. Yes, you will solve all of the issues with the 3 competitors which you will have there, and you will work there with high quality, and everything will be cool there. So we see, quickly, we have a very nice solution by Tarot. Use the products offered by Genesis. They never paid me for that, but they gave me the cards, so we need to thank them. If there are any questions, we have 8 minutes left. The card for Korea? Okay. I thought you said Porsche Cayenne, but you said Korea. Okay. So the card for Korea. Let me take this card for you. Okay. It's a man here. He's half naked. And he is upside down. Do you have competitors there? So you will hang them upside down because there is a sun behind. You are the sun, which is shining bright, and all of the rest competitors are upside down. You should clarify which Korea that is. The ones which hangs people. Are there any other questions to our speakers? That's it about the cards. Please, the question, but you need the mic for that. Unfortunately, the microphone is not used. Unfortunately, the microphone is not used. The answer should be short. Yes, you should do that, and it is done during the last decade. Everybody's moved to the commodity. It is taking place on a permanent basis. There are no old or new channels. This is just digitalization which has taken place, and there are metrics which show what you should do. Any market is achieving the point when the performance is lagging behind and becomes too expensive. That's what happened among drivers in Ukraine. We put ads and nothing changed, but in a month it changed. Still, without the classic tools of advertisement, nothing can be done. So you need an individual approach, and you shouldn't move as the bigger brands do. Now, performance only. Performance startups, IT spheres have spoiled the attitude to the marketing. The marketing is the ratio of the investments and return on investments. I would add that you should look at the category, because the tools are not changing that much. But it's important to understand what your competitors use. In fact, it could be a very traditional channel, but in your category, you will be the first. And it will drive attention. For instance, sponsorship of the huge sports events. For some beer or betting, it would be a super standard story, but when Ajax came there, in our category, everybody was talking about it. And some of the bigger contracts allowed us to cover it. Some logos which we could post on the shorts of Usyk. So by the sponsorship at Formula One. Valeriia, will you add? Yes, let me add. I agree with everyone. And let me add one more thing, that even to the traditional channels, non-traditional approach can help you. In TikTok, you can do something unexpected for the use of the category. When, for instance, we have some ideas with a blogger, with Hala, who is present here, we think that's an invention, that looks cool. What did you invent? You will see soon. We don't want to spoil it. You were recorded as well. So when there was the fight of Usyk, and Yves Saint Laurent was the sponsor, the whole our team was talking about that. Everybody was shocked, and all of the viewers noticed that. Because you're expecting for alcohol, whatever, but Yves Saint Laurent was never expected. When did it take place? This time, there used to be Yves Saint Laurent, and they were working. I was watching it. I did not see that. Thank you. One more question, if you want. I saw the hand over there, please. But we need the microphone for that. Unfortunately, the question is not heard without the microphone.
Партнерів, стартапів, інноваторів, скейлапів, проєктів. Якщо немає, наскільки ви бачите в цьому перспективу для того, щоб швидшими темпами українська інноваційна система, екосистема, зайшла на міжнародні ринки? Дякую.
Хтось хоче відповісти, якщо так, то супер коротко.
Who wants to answer? If you'd like to, super short answer, please. Serhii, we don't have it in Ukraine. We don't have it in the Ukrainian representation office of Bolt, but what's in Estonia? Because the company is Estonian. It would be cool if we had it in Ukraine. They have different unions, IT, startups, which help to promote the partnerships together into new expansions. I think and I know that the bottleneck will be the legal issue, because different companies may have totally different restrictions. But what could be definitely an advantage in the win-win when, let us speak about the partnership of the taxi. When we'd like to have the partnership, we need the payment system, the logistics, the vehicles, couriers, deliveries, the work with the staff, a lot of work with people. So if it is all working, then it is interesting. But it would hardly be easy to drag someone. Maybe to go together, yes. We always have it ad hoc. There cannot be some program existing just while communicating with the partners. When there is some need and you understand that our Ukrainian product can solve this issue, we always share it. And in fact, there used to be requests very often when our partners, the installation companies, the guarding companies, very often they don't have their own marketing department, and their experience with the agencies is rather negative mostly at their local market. They don't have their own expertise, how to pose the task, how to control it, and so on. Then, looking at the partners where we can see that they're doing something and they fail in something, and we'd like to help them, we have our own internal team which can provide some basic services. But if we are speaking about the full marketing maintenance or accompanying of the partners, we provide the intro for our local agencies, and then they're using their services. Thank you. Let me add that we are working as startups, so we really understand your issue, and we found a way to be partners with the local authorities or local representatives or universities. As we are the IT guys, we are the suppliers of data, we cooperate with some of the universities. An example, in Ukraine, as all over the world, the real estate market is important because it shows the health of state of economy. And in Ukraine, the National Bank of Ukraine, while assessing the health of economy, is basing upon our data. It is done for 7 years, but since this year, the International Monetary Fund is using the data of LUN as well. It was not accidental, it was the direct way, a targeted way. We are doing that to get access to the markets, to the connections, to the rules, and future partners with whom we can work in the future. We have the expertise, and we are working it for the development to find the future partners who would help us enter such markets. Thank you.
Дякую, що послухали. У нас сьогодні був Bolt, Ajax, Megogo і Lun.
We got Bolt, Ajax, Megogo, and Lun. Thank you all. Have a good day.